This action research aims to identify how I can improve my practice and student engagement through project-based learning and student-centered experiences. My first professional practicum took place at a low socioeconomic government school located in southwestern Sydney. The school population is made up of diverse nationalities and learning abilities, with 24% of these students coming from refugee backgrounds. The school assesses itself against the School Excellence Framework to develop high-quality practices across the three domains of learning, teaching, and leading. The school works towards three main strategic directions, which include quality teaching of literacy and numeracy to enable students to develop confidence in literacy and numeracy. Future-focused pedagogies to ensure a whole-school approach in developing a student-centered and collaborative learning environment. And finally, community and connection to increase interrelationships between schools and the outer community to support the well-being of students. This research will be implemented in a Stage 2 Year 3 classroom with 28 students that have mixed social, intellectual, and academic learning abilities, and consequently a high number of learning difficulties. The seating arrangement in this classroom is flexible to cater to students' diverse needs. The classroom teacher aligns her teaching pedagogies and practices with the school focus. She is a compassionate and approachable teacher that strives to improve her practice and teaching pedagogies to improve and provide her students with the optimal learning experience. Based on my observation, I was able to identify that the students in this classroom work collaboratively and are eager learners with diverse talents that have not yet been explored through their learning experiences. Although the majority of the students enjoy deep classroom discussions, this is very limited. I was able to determine that learning experiences lack purpose, reasoning, and deep engagement. When hands-on activities are incorporated into learning experiences, students are more engaged and are eager to think critically and solve problems. Based on my 6-week observation, I was able to understand the key learning issues in the classroom that must be targeted to maximize students' learning and encourage substantive student engagement. Some key learning issues include a lack of deep understanding and purposeful learning, which limited the significance of content to students' present and future life. Another key issue was limited problem solving and critical thinking opportunities, which impacted students' deep engagement. These two issues led me to my focus question: how can I foster substantive student engagement through project-based learning? According to Edwards and Munns, the intellectual, social, and physical aspect of project-based learning associates well with the high cognitive, high affective, and high operative engagement of the REAL framework through cognitive challenges, enjoyment, and self-control. Project-based learning is a constructive and student-centered approach whereby students actively engage in the real world and personally meaningful projects. Munns and Sway articulate that project-based learning encourages the process of engaging messages through student voice, control, ability, place, and knowledge. Based on my observations, students were most motivated when they took control of their learning and were allowed to communicate with peers their findings and ideas. Students can verbalize their perspectives and solutions to their problems. Patton explains that project-based learning encourages critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity, which are all significant elements to assist in preparing students for the present and future world challenges. Many research shows that students that engage in project-based learning are stimulated to engage in critical thinking and higher higher order questioning, problem solving, and personalized learning. Please refer to the next few slides where I will display a mini unit of work that explores how project-based learning can be implemented in science. I will use data collection and analysis to inform my future practices and pedagogy shift towards a project-based and student-centered approach. I will be gathering observation notes and student work samples and giving students the opportunity to self-reflect. These data methods will be judged against the MEE framework to assess substantive engagement and achievement through student outcome. Work samples will be collected over the 3 learning experiences. At the end of the first learning experience, each group will be asked to upload their vision board on Microsoft Teams. Students' collective work samples will be collected and progress logbooks will be assessed individually. Multiple drafts will be annotated with a red pen to assist students in critiquing their next work sample. At the end of Lesson 3, the major summative assessment will be the final product. Each group will present their final label design and PowerPoint presentation discussing their findings. Work samples have several affordances such as monitoring students' progress and increasing students' motivation and commitment. However, this method also exhibits some limitations such as focusing on the final product rather than the process. The other data collection method I will use is observational data that will be collected throughout the project-based learning experiences by observing and recording students' behavior. Please refer to the observational notes table that I will use to observe students' understanding and engagement. I will also use this table to evaluate my teaching practices and pedagogies. Students will be observed while working individually and collaboratively for at least 3 minutes of each learning experience. As the observer, I aim to observe students from my jelly bean table to elevate the pressure on students as well as occasionally walk around the classroom. I will walk around the classroom and monitor group discussions. I will use my iPad for convenience and mark against the observation comment table. My observation criteria marks against engagement derived from the MEE framework. By observing my students, I can give direct feedback and encourage critical thinking, conversation with one another. However, in some cases, this can be time-consuming and students may feel overwhelmed knowing they are being observed. I will also ask students to reflect on their learning experience by promoting various questions derived from the REAL framework. Students will be allowed to reflect on their daily learning experience and how they progressed in the project. This open classroom discussion will encourage critical and deep reflection between peers, which will promote sharing of ideas and perspectives that may shape their next learning experience. After completing their final product and presentation, students will complete a self-reflection worksheet anonymously that targets a range of high operative, high cognitive, and high affective questions derived from the REAL framework. Using students' self-reflection questions, students can confidently reflect on their project-based learning experience and how this 21st pedagogy made them feel, think, and act. When choosing student self-reflection questions, I must consider the appropriate questions to avoid misinterpretation of the questions by students. The three methods of data collection mentioned will provide me with multiple opportunities to analyze students' level of engagement and student achievement. Markers of achievement will be assessed against the science and mathematics syllabus outcomes. Whereas markers of engagement will be marked against the real framework. The data will be analyzed to determine if the outcomes have been achieved and determine students' level of engagement in this learning experience. The data will also determine the effectiveness of project-based learning in increasing students' engagement. Work samples will allow me to identify whether all science outcomes have been achieved using planning and collecting data to scientifically represent their labeled diagram. Work samples represent sketches of 2D and 3D shapes, allowing me to determine whether students have achieved the mathematics outcomes. Markers of engagement that will be identified from work samples include making changes to their diagram and critiquing their drafts, high cognitive, taking control of which appliance they will choose to illustrate and share their ideas, high operative, students' ability to take risks, high affective. Observation will also identify science outcomes of being able to describe characteristics and effects of common forms of energy such as light and heat. Markers of engagement in students' observation will be a demonstration of collaboration and the ability to work well and be productive with others, high operative. Engaging in the illustration and production of the scientific model while socializing with peers and sharing ideas, providing and receiving feedback, high effective. Enjoyment through observing students' body language and facial expressions, high effective. Problem solving through using different methods and mathematical sketching appropriate to the appliance, high cognitive. Although self-assessment does provide markers of achievement, it focuses mainly on markers of engagement through actively participating in the self-assessment and providing a detailed reflection through responses, high operative. Students identify that they found enjoyment in completing the project as well as recognizing their strengths from this learning experience, high effective. Engaging in substantive conversation at the end of each learning experience, questioning, reasoning, and making linkage to the present and future worlds, high cognitive. Implementing action research will refine my teaching practices, improve my professional development, and encourage a more student-centered approach. As Johnson and Stringer noted, action research allows teachers to acquire technical skills and specialized knowledge that assist them in making positive changes within the classroom and school environment. Through participating in this action research, I now understand the direct impact project-based learning has on improving student engagement and achievement. With reference to Standard 5.4.1 from the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, this action research allowed me to understand the importance of interpreting students' data to evaluate students' learning progress and modify my teaching practices. While on PP1, I was able to identify students' high level of engagement when hands-on activities were incorporated, which refined my teaching practices. Moreover, through implementing this action research, I was able to identify how I can improve my teaching practice to cater for diverse learning styles and abilities, as well as students that attend low socioeconomic schools, thereby meeting Standard 3.3.1 and 1.3.1. By conducting action research, I can understand my students on a deeper level and how they learn. Standard 1.2.1. Understand how students learn. Through data collection and analysis, I am able to determine that project-based learning has shown evidence to improve student achievement, student engagement, and intrinsic motivation. Thus, implementing more project-based learning experience will have significant effects on fostering students' learning. I now